This is the multiple choice questions in www and HTTP from the book Data Communications and Networking by Behrouz A. Forouzan. 1. A user needs to send the server some information. The request line method is blank. A. Option. B. Patch. C. Post. D. None of these. Answer, C. Post. 2. In a URL, the blank is the client-server program used to retrieve the document. A. Path. B. Protocol. C. Host. D. None of these. Answer, B. Protocol. 3. A blank document is created by a web server whenever a browser requests the document. A. Static. B. Dynamic. C. Active. D. None of these. Answer, B. Dynamic. 4. One way to create an active document is to use blank. A. CGI. B. Java standalone programs. C. Java applets. D. None of these. Answer, C. Java applets. 5. A cookie is made by the blank and eaten by the blank. A. Client, client. B. Client, server. C. Server, server. D. None of these. Answer, C. Server, server. 6. A blank document is a fixed content document that is created and stored in a server. The client can get a copy of the document only. A. Static. B. Dynamic. C. Active. D. None of these. Answer, A. Static. 7. The blank is a standard for specifying any kind of information on the internet. A. URL. B. ULR. C. RLU. D. None of these. Answer, A. URL. 8. Blank is a repository of information linked together from points all over the world. A. The www. B. HTTP. C. HTML. D. None of these. Answer, A. The www. 9. Which of the following is present in both an HTTP request line and a status line? A. HTTP version number. B. URL. C. Status code. D. None of these. Answer, A. HTTP version number. 10. Active documents are sometimes referred to as blank dynamic documents. A. Client side. B. Server side. C. Both A and B. D. None of these. Answer, A. Client side. 11. HTTP uses the services of blank on well-known port 80. A. UDP. B. IP. C. TCP. D. None of these. Answer, C. TCP. 12. Dynamic documents are sometimes referred to as blank dynamic documents. A. Client side. B. Server side. C. Both A and B. D. None of these. Answer, B. Server side. 13. For many applications, we need a program or a script to be run at the client side. These are called blank documents. A. Static. B. Dynamic. C. Active. D. None of these. Answer, C. Active. 14. In HTTP, a blank server is a computer that keeps copies of responses to recent requests. A. Regular. B. Proxy. C. Both A and B. D. None of these. Answer, B. Proxy. 15. The HTTP request line contains a blank method to get information about a document without retrieving the document itself. A. Head. B. Post. C. Copy. D. None of these. Answer: A. Head. 16. A response message always contains blank. A. A header and a body. B. A request line and a header. C. A status line and a header. D. None of these. Answer: C. A status line and a header. 17. In a URL, an optional blank can be inserted between the host and the path, and it is separated from the host by a colon. A. Path. B. Protocol. C. Host. D. None of these. Answer: D. None of these. 18. An applet is blank document application program. A. A static. B. An active. C. A passive. D. A dynamic. Answer: B. An active. 19. The documents in the www can be grouped into blank broad categories. A. 2. B. 3. C. 4. D. None of these. Answer: B. 3. 20. Blank is a language for creating web pages. A. HTTP. B. HTML. C. FTTP. D. None of these. Answer: B. HTML. 21. Blank is a technology that creates and handles dynamic documents. A. GIC. B. CGI. C. GCI. D. None of these. Answer: B. CGI. 22. The HTTP request line contains a blank method to request a document from the server. A. Get. B. Post. C. Copy. D. None of these. Answer: A. Get. 23. In a blank connection, the server leaves the connection open for more requests after sending a response. A. Persistent. B. Non-persistent. C. Both A and B. D. None of these. Answer: A. Persistent. 24. An HTTP request message always contains blank. A. A header and a body. B. A request line and a header. C. A status line, a header, and a body. D. None of these. Answer: B. A request line and a header. 25. In a blank connection, one TCP connection is made for each request/response. A. Persistent. B. Non-persistent. C. Both A and B. D. None of these. Answer: B. Non-persistent. 26. In a URL, the blank is the full name of the file where the information is located. A. Path. B. Protocol. C. Host. D. None of these. Answer: A. Path. 27. In a URL, the blank is the computer on which the information is located. A. Path. B. Protocol. C. Host. D. None of these. Answer: C. Host. 28. HTTP version 1.1 specifies a blank connection by default. A. Persistent. B. Non-persistent. C. Both A and B. D. None of these. Answer: A. Persistent. 29. In HTTP, the first line in a request message is called a blank line, the first line in the response message is called the blank line. A. Request, response. B. Response, request. C. Response, status. D. None of these. Answer: D. None of these. 30. The www today is a blank client-server service, in which a client using a browser can access a service using a server. A. Limited. B. Vast. C. Distributed. D. None of these. Answer, C. Distributed.